Our next guest may only be 24, but it's fair to say he knows his way around a stage or two. Matthew Wright-Kenny started acting professionally aged just 15 for interactive theatre companies and has then gone on to star in short films. He's joining us now to reveal what he's currently working on. So Matthew, thanks for joining us. How are you?
That's right, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Charles.
Oh, pleasure. How about you take us back to when you first got interested in acting?
So, I was quite shy when I was really little, and I think it's a bit of a cliche, but my parents kind of thought starting out in acting would be something that would kind of help build my confidence. I was going to the Hayden College at the time, so I was about 12 because I was in year 7. And I got to play Danny in like a cabaret night, Danny from Greece. And then they invited me to be part of the play and then school play that year. And just, I kind of fell in love with being on stage. So just the adrenaline rush. And since then I joined Dynamo Youth Theatre, which is like a local youth theatre company based in Havant. They were in the spring, I think they're in St Faith's Hall now. And then, yeah, kind of it blossomed from there, really.
So they were quite keen your progression, were they?
Yeah, really. They were kind of, the first experiences of treading the boards, as it were, kind of, doing stage shows, getting used to how stage shows work, reading plays. And then kind of a friend of ours suggested an actor who lives in Portsmouth, Christopher Marlowe. And I started going to him for little one-to-one sessions, and he sort of taught me everything I know, really. And he's one of the producers for New Apollo Theatre Company, which is the theatre company I've just been doing a play with. So it's been a really nice little circle journey, really, kind of bringing me back to where I began.
So what about your recent work then? You mentioned the play with New Apollo Theatre.
Yeah, so we've been doing, we called it the Portsea Murders because it was a double bill of 2 plays written by Cop the Needle, who are a local couple of writers, John and Stuart, and they'd written, they're based on true murders, true crime that happened in Portsmouth in the early 19th and 20th century. The first one followed the murder of a Portsmouth prostitute called Mary Pellon, and it's kind of still a cold case from the early 20th century, just after the war. And then the second one, which is I got to play the murderer in, followed the case of John Stacey, or the Demon Barber of Portsmouth, who was like a young 20-something barber who slit the throats and kind of beat to death
Nice.
2 Portsmouth residents in order to rob them. And got caught after he got a bit carried away with the money and had some ostentation shows of wealth, which an apprentice wouldn't have been able to afford, basically. So they caught him and eventually hung him, yeah.
What's it like playing... what's your character? Is it one of these dodgy ones?
Yeah, well, I'm playing the murderer, so I was playing John Stacey. And yeah, it's great. It's great being a bad guy. You get to kind of explore the kind of psychology of people that you don't meet in day-to-day, kind of slightly sociopathic killers, and it was really interesting working on developing a way of showing that he was a kind of a lost young guy, but at the same time he almost relished the opportunity he had to take what he believed the world owed him.
And what now for you? What are you looking at?
So I've got little bits coming up. I'm shooting 2 more short films later this year. I've been really lucky. I've just signed with new management in New York, Wayne Gasser, who kind of runs the Gasser Group, which is a management company in New York. And the hope is at some point I'll be able to head out stateside and start getting some work out there. So at the moment we're kind of lots of things in motion, but not much kind of set in stone, really.
So stateside, is Hollywood the dream, or would you like to still balance kind of a musical?
Oh, well, I'm
thing.
not much of a singer and dancer, unfortunately. I can kind of act my way through a song, and I can follow the choreography, but it's not something that comes natural. But I do love musicals. Something that's hard not to love about that level of cheese. Screen work is definitely where I'd like to go. It's kind of the side of the industry that pays the best, certainly. And that's definitely would be the goal eventually. Yeah, I'd love to end up in Hollywood. That'd be magic.
And you might say you're still very much in an early stage of your career, but what advice would you give to younger teenagers?
Just, you've got to be determined. It's one of those things, you've got to be able to take rejection and have the fact that people will say no to you, or worst case scenario, won't say no to you, and suddenly the television show will be on TV. And you'll be like, oh, okay, so I guess I didn't get that job. So yeah, you've just got to really be able to roll with the punches, being confident, just experiencing life as much as possible. Because ultimately what acting is telling stories and trying to give a realistic representation of humanity, really. So you have to be able to try and put yourself out there and experience as much as life as you can. and that way you can kind of recreate it, understand and empathise with the characters, even if they're characters that you don't necessarily see yourself as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. That's all we've got time for, but do keep in touch and we'll see you soon.
Cheers. Thank you very much for having me, Charles. Cheers.